Jakov Lind was a British-Austrian writer. Born in 1927 in Vienna into a Jewish family to Simon and Rosa Landwerth, Jakov's father was actually born in the Polish city of Rabka and only moved to Vienna in about 1895. Separated from his parents in 1938 by being placed on a kindertransport to the Netherlands, he initially stayed with his two sisters in a children's home before they too were separated. Following the German occupation of the Netherlands, Lind spent some time with various families, eventually evading the transport of the Granat family to the Westerbork camp and obtaining fake identification under the name of Jan Gerrit Overbeek. Thereafter, he would work in the Netherlands and in Germany under this false identity. Following the end of the Second World War, he illegally entered Palestine, where he married his first wife, Ida. The pair would have one son, Grisha, but Lind would soon move back to Vienna before settling in London in 1954, where he would marry his second wife, Faith Henry. The pair had several children, but this marriage too ended in separation. Lind would start his writing career in London, initially publishing his works in German, including prose, radio plays, and scripts to films. Lind died in London in 2007. Soul of Wood was Lind's first book, published in German in 1962 and in English in 1964. The title story has an interesting premise. A paralyzed Jew named Anton is taken from his apartment by his peg-legged veteran caretaker Wolbrecht and, despite the promises made to his parents as they were transported away, is taken away to starve to death in the forest. However, instead of dying, he suddenly gains the ability to walk and he runs around with the deer and other forest animals. Unfortunately, this part of the story is largely ignored, and most of the story is in fact taken up by the blatherings of his former caretaker and about how he got himself committed into an asylum. The whole wild man thing comes into the story only a few pages before the end, barely any time is spent on it, and the story then just sort of ends. The Pious Brother is a kind of a pointless and lengthy diatribe about a priest and former SS member trying to cock-tease a woman and then killing himself while dressing up as the Jew he killed, I think. The window is a really odd thing. So apparently this one guy who lives in an apartment complex just happens to live next door to Jesus, and then Jesus shows the person a woman without an ass and then demands that the guy's penis be chopped off in return, but then changes his mind, I think. Hurrah for freedom is even stranger, if that is even possible. A wanderer in this story runs into a family of Lithuanian nudists who live in a house without rooms under the suspended corpse of a horse hung from the ceiling and who also eat their own children. And then he just goes away. Not sure if you'd call this surreal, it's mostly played oddly straight. Resurrection is the story about two Jews hiding until they're discovered and sent to die in a camp. It's got more characterization than most of these stories and works more or less, and also seems to be very autobiographical. Journey Through the Night, the second tale in the book, I have left till last because it is easily the best in this collection. It's a simple, short story of a man getting locked in with a cannibal on the train to Paris who tries to convince the man how much better off he'd be if he was dead. It's short, sweet, and sufficiently morbid. Plus, the confusing editing from the rest of the book, where sentences aren't separated from descriptions or narration by any means whatsoever, work better here given the nightmarish, insane atmosphere of the story. Whereas everywhere else in this book, it just makes the text bleed together into a hard-to-read mess. This collection is definitely not the worst I've ever read, and it has a few interesting ideas, but it's certainly not worth all the massive praise that is given to it everywhere you look online.